unveil the biggest mistake Bushiroad made this year. Bushiroad, where is my Chronojet? We're almost 2 years in the reboot and we got G-units like Blademaster, Claret Sword and Vanquisher, but where is my boy Chronojet? Now I'm sure that somebody at Bushiroad HQ is watching my videos. Stand up! Vanguard! When you aren't in the correct timeline, we keep jumping until we are at the correct one. And ladies and gentlemen, we finally have arrived, as we have finally Chronojet Dragon back to Vanguard. Welcome home, my boy. Ever since that card was leaked, I have been bombarded by you guys with private messages, global messages, chats and whatnot with pictures. Everybody saying, "Oh my god, look at this! They brought him back!" And I was like, I'm too sick for this shit. Why did they reveal it this weekend? As technically it should have been revealed next weekend. But I don't care, cause this is probably the best news we got this year. Mind you, we've only been like 5 days into this year, so there's not much to compete. But damn it, we've got Chronojet, so I don't care! So as I explained in yesterday's video, today I'm gonna talk about everything concerning the reveal of Chronojet, my thoughts, my expectations, what this will mean for the upcoming meta for Standard and Premium, and all that jazz around this card, as even though we only got the image, it has told us and it can tell us a lot of information. So in this video I'm gonna cover what type of implication this will have for the premium meta, or at least the premium landscape, as well as for the standard landscape for Gear Chronicle as a clan, and of course what this also can entice for the general meta. I'm also going to talk about my expectation, or what I think the card might do, or at least in what type of direction Bushiroad is going for. And I'm going to top off with general information about what the card can mean, where it will be released, and how it will incorporate with the rest of the Gear Chronicle support that we've seen so far. So there is quite a lot to talk about, even though the only thing we know is that it's a grade 3, its name is Chronojet Dragon, and it has the force marker and of course the 13k base. So first, of course, this thing was first revealed or leaked when somebody put out the image that you see right now on Facebook, and I've been bombarded by this in my private chat with other guys from my local community about, look at this! And my first initial reaction was, nah fam, that can't be true. We have seen many of these fake images or fake card leaks that Chronojet would return, and I'm not buying this. Look at the art, it's somewhat off of what you would typically say what a general design is for a Cardfight Vanguard card. So I thought, nah, it doesn't feel that right. I still like the artwork, but it doesn't feel right. Until we then got the official confirmation by Can You Say G on Discord, and I believe it was Different Fight Discord, but I'm not 100% sure about that, where he basically stated that it came from the episode that was streamed on a Japanese site or a Japanese service, and Bushiroad didn't release it on their official YouTube channel. Which is odd, but it happened. So then, we immediately knew, oh shit, this is real. And then, the shitstorm happened, because the community was set ablaze. As we've got many shit posts or just general posts about either people that are super hyped and super stoked about the card, or people that are having PTSDs from mid-G era because of time leap. And that word basically triggered like 1,000 people of you out there watching this video right now. So I'm gonna say it again. Time leap. That happened. What can we actually deduce from having Chronojet Dragon back in standard, or at least get a standard version of the card that maybe can impact premium? I see a lot of people commenting about how this will break premium, or this is gonna be the return of time leap and all that kind of stuff. But there is something I need to clarify. Yes, we finally have a Chronojet Dragon with a 13k base, with a force marker returning. But this won't make a difference in premium, or at least not a super big one as you might think. Because a lot of people think about, when they see Chronojet Dragon or they hear the name, they immediately think back about Time Leap. Time Leap. The Elite Four. TikTok, Malum, History Maker, and Uratar. basically these 4 cards. And they think that this deck can now finally return in premium and do its thing once again. But the reason in the first place why this deck faded out of existence is, of course, ZTB took over and it was the new big thing, but also it was hit with the ban list quite heavily as Uratar was set to 1, and TikTok was also set to 1 and banned as a first starter, so the deck was quite crippled in that aspect. But it was unrestricted, and it didn't see a comeback. And I believe they unrestricted it, I think, at the end of G or when Standard was announced, but I'm not 100% sure when they unrestrict everything. I believe it was during Standard. But the reason why it didn't come back is, at the point of Standard, everybody was playing with 12k and 13k base, and the whole gimmick about Time Leap was that they were hitting and poking for 11k attacks with Madam. So in this new era, that meant fuck all, as you want to hit for 12k and most notably 13k. So even though we might get Chronojet Dragon back, it doesn't mean a whole lot, as sure, the most notable Time Leap cards, Strides, we're forcing you to have a Chronojet hard card. We have Metallica Phoenix, Next Stage, Gear Groovy, all these cards force you to have a Chronojet Vanguard hard card to make all those powerful strides work. So having this grade 3 with a Chronojet with a force marker come back, you can say Time Leap is now finally revived and we can utilize all these type of cards because now Melon will not hit for 11k but 21k. But the problem here is Time Leap has been already back for almost a year now, because last year we got a premium collection which introduced History Build Dragon, which basically solved the whole issue of the Time Leap build where you were forced to have a Chronojet hard card and still could do all the Time Leap plays. So there was no actual reason anymore to have a Chronojet hard card. So having a Chronojet right now will not basically means that Time Leap suddenly comes out of nowhere, as it was already playable for almost a year now. The big difference, however, is now because we have a Chronojet hard card, we don't have to rely on Lost Legend, which means we can utilize other cards, which gives the deck a bit more consistency, but not overall power. Think about the Stride Father, Steam Breath Dragon. Now we can search out the grade 3 more consistently and ride it, or at least have more stride options available to us. And fetch, and being able to fetch out a potential unit with a force marker is pretty handy in certain scenarios. But it also allows us to give us more access to other specific Time Leap unit cards that need to have a Chronojet Vanguard. Think about Delayed Blazer or Causality Dragon. These two cards are both very powerful Time Leap units that weren't available when we were using the Lost Legend version. So we do have access to a bit more utility card. But the big thing, and the reason why I think having Chronojet back as a grade 3 hard card, which is going to make a difference, is the fact that now you can sit on Chronojet, and when your opponent strides on the first turn, you can finally guard once again with Hatred Round Dragon. Because this wasn't an option when using Lost Legend, as the problem with that build is that you go into Lost Legend, you stride, and then it's your opponent's turn, you sit on Lost Legend, and you cannot use Hatred Round. So this gives the deck a more consistency. What it also means is that now you could potentially run for Lost Legend and for Chronojet V for a timely build to have always a force marker on first ride when you go in to do your plays. But the reason why I say that Hatred Round is going to make a big difference for the timely build with Chronojet is the fact that how that card interacts with the current top meta builds. Against Katrina, having Hatred Round, you will always eliminate that extra attack that they can force out with their Ember Clone. Because once they swing with Katrina and they build their board, you can guard with Hatred Round on the Vanguard attack and spin that multi-attack unit back into the deck, which basically guards an extra attack on top of extra shield value against their Vanguard attack. And what it can also mean is that Katrina players against Timely will never call that unit for that reason, and then you can just use powerful G-guards like Uluru or Best Girl Arlim. And against Cole Paladin is basically the biggest FU against their Ultima kill turn, because you're just gonna reshuffle their deck, and they have no 100% certainty that they're gonna get 2 critical triggers or a crit and a stand trigger on the top 2 cards of their deck. And it also works against Dark Regulars in certain scenarios where they go off with their Gas Steel and they maybe want to use Master Fifth in some kind of way and restand one of their powerful rearguards in the front row with something like Doreen. Having a Hatred Round on the board, you basically shut down that extra combo potential with those very powerful attacks, as you spin that card, which got insane power boosts from Castile, and if it's Doreen, even her own ability, and you reset that with a very weak unit on the side. And usually they don't have boosters that can force an attack to be more powerful, and because you are a force grade 3, it's very likely that that unit can never hit you again. So that is also a big thing against Castile. And that's already 3 of the major decks. Sure, it's not a absolute workaround against the best decks because there's still RNG involved, but it at least gives the deck some out against the top tier contender decks, and it will always be a very powerful G-Guard. So having Chronojet back as a starting Vanguard is a big thing in that consideration. But that's basically timing. We also have ZTB, and in ZTB's case, it's a bit more awkward, as I have friends and I know people that are saying that this is also very good for ZTB. I personally make the argument that that's not the case, because I don't really see the value of having a normal Chronojet as a ZTB support, because this Chronojet is a Gear Dragon. We can see on the card with the kanji of his race that it's purely a Gear Dragon. It doesn't have the ZTB kanji on top of it, so it isn't a card that interacts well with the ZTB engine. Sure, it has Chronojet in the name, which means you get access to Transit and Cruising Dragon, which are very powerful ZTB cards. But then, with Cruising Dragon in mind, running multiple non-ZTB cards decreases the consistency of that card. Same as with Split Pegasus, same as with Avenir Phoenix, same with Spare Unicorn, and all these ZTB cards that force you to run a lot of other ZTB cards to make them useful. And also, big problem of the ZTB engine currently, why it's not really going off, is they don't have access to the new triggers. Sure, they can run them, but none of them are ZTB, meaning you even decrease more consistency for the deck as you're running less and less ZTB counts in your build. And it happened to me a lot of the times that when I use this type of hybrid deck, that I use Cruising Dragon and I check the top 3, and there were none ZTB involved. Or I have Avenir Phoenix, and there were almost none ZTBs in the top 5. You're basically screwed out of your cards, and you're making your cards worse by running potentially stronger cards. Now, in the standard side of things, this basically means nothing, because we have no clue what the card actually is going to do, and we don't know how it will interact with the rest of the support. As there is one thing that I want to make clear as why I'm somewhat scared or hesitant to say that this is going to be the grand all save all for premium as well. Standard is a different thing because it can still work in standard in its own way, but I'm mainly hesitant about saying this is gonna make premium gears insane. Is take a look at the other revival G units in standard. Blade Master, Glared Sword Dragon, Vanquisher. Sure, we don't know exactly what Vanquisher does, but we have a good inkling of how the skill is going to interact. And all these free cards don't work with their G deck. Blade Master is a second turn wipe and have an extra unit that have Twin Drive. That doesn't interact with their G deck at all, because if it was on the first grade free turn, you can basically give your opponent first strike and you go into this thing, use its ability, and then next turn you're gonna strike. But because you need to Soul Blazer grade free, this means you have first strike or you concede first strike, and then you're still not gonna strike for a mediocre potential restand Vanguard. Sure, you have the whole Blade Master Break Ride build where you run 16 stands, but that's not an actual Blade Master deck. That's a weird win con around the whole mechanic about that vision token. So this can also be the case with Chronojet. We can either have a Soul Blaze grade free ability, or a act ability, or a ability that is used when your opponent is also at grade free, or just a generic ability that doesn't interact really well with the rest of the premium support. The only thing that we can hope for if we want to make it good in premium is that it has an auto on right ability, a rearguard ability, so it makes very good use of Chrono Dren's starter skill where you can recall to the rearguard circle, and then if it has a rearguard ability, you can basically get more value out of the card. Or it has a when a unit is placed on top of it effect. So every time when you stride, it's a pseudo stride skill. And so that is my inkling of what it could impact for standard and premium, as it could deviate a complete different way, and it's very hard to say in the standard side of what's going to do, as standard doesn't really have cards that interact with Chronojet. Premium has a much more established base of cards where we can at least see some impact the card is going to have, even though it's currently vanilla. even when it's vanilla, it does have some altercations for the format. Now we're going to go into the speculation aspect, as what could this potential skill be? As we already hinted about that, it's very likely that the card might go into a completely different direction. I've seen countless of suggestions or things on the internet about what people think the skills be. I've seen from multi-tech things, for basically time leap in a revival. I've also seen people talk about a new token concept that interacts with time leap or time leap tokens, all that kinds of stuff. But I think that is a bit far-fetched and a bit over the top for the card, as people are seeing time leap and Chronojet as one thing, which it's actually not, because the whole Elite Four for time leap doesn't actually need Chronojet. That's already what I discussed, that even Lost Legend is enough. Sure, only Metallica Phoenix needs Chronojet, but that's the only actual card. Chronojet himself is actually a rewind unit. Its first stride skill ability was all about rewinding your opponent's cards. This was also brought back with Chronojet Z. So in my opinion, it's more likely or more logical to give Chronojet some kind of rewind ability. And it's very likely that's going to be a more powerful version of Escrew Dragon, as Escrew Dragon was some kind of the rewind card in the first set, but in my opinion was way too understated, or at least his ability was too awkward to actually make use. So I think there's a potential for a rewind skill. But what I've also seen, and I think that could also work, is some kind of multi-attack potential, as Gear Chronicle, or at least Chronojet, was with the Time Leap engine all about multi-tacking, and we've seen with all the extra Chronojet support that they went into this multi-tack aspect. As we have seen this with Time Leap, we've seen this with ZTB, and all those specific support in between. So having a multi-tack potential is possible, and this could potentially interact with the whole binding mechanic, as we already know that Chronofang is going to make a return, and Chronofang is all about brute forcing his way to victory. A Chronofang Rebellion and Chronofang is all about dumping their hand into the bind zone and then making their strides as powerful as possible, and then beat in with a super high power stride with a double crit and 4 drive checks, and then hope that your opponent doesn't have a PG, and then basically kill them with potentially 4 crits in your drive check. So it's very likely that Rebellion and Chronofang are still going to take that approach. But what Chronojet can possibly do is utilize that bind zone in a multi-tech potential, as it can maybe bind cards from hand, field, drop zone, deck, to fill their bind zone with potential cards, and then have other cards, maybe Chronojet for example, that can pick 1 or 2 cards from the bind zone and place them onto the field when it attacks, for example. So you can multi-attack through different means. And then the final thing that we can talk about is the actual card. And what I mean with that is, what type of rarity or where does this card fit in? We already know that Chronofang and Rebellion are going to be in the new Gear Chronicle set. So we have Rebellion as the VR, that's already confirmed. And with Chronofang in it, it's very obvious that that's going to be the triple R of that set. Which means Gear Chronicle has most likely only 1 triple R left. Chronojet is a triple R status card worth. But at the same time, it's very unlikely that they're gonna put in 2 triple R grade 3s in a single set. I believe they haven't done that till this point. So I don't think that that's the case, but I'm also not very sure if they're gonna do a double R. It could possibly be that Chronojet is going to be somewhat similar to how we had Artemis in the first Genesis support, that we're going to get only maybe 2 or 3 cards that support Chronojet, and that's about it. This is a sidetrack of what the new thing is going to be, because we already know that Chronodren is also in the anime, but not as a card form, so it's likely that we're also going to get Chronodren as a starter, but that's just your generic starter. Chronodren's starter skill is probably going to be auto, when rolled upon, draw a card. But that's just a wild guess right there. Time Leap. Double R is somewhat likely, but at the same time very unlikely. If you watch W Slasher's video about Chronojet yesterday, his point does make sense, where they potentially are going to introduce a new trial deck after this set, and that will introduce the new series after the whole Shin arc, as that's almost winding up and we're going to go into new stuff. So that's a plausible candidate. And the reason why I'm all for that hypothesis is that Chronojet has been the trial deck grade 3 during the G era. The only Chronojet version that wasn't in the trial deck was Chronojet Z. And in my opinion, probably the only reason why they didn't put it in the trial deck is there was really no point to make a trial deck at the end of G, as it was the end of the series. It's pretty wasteful to make a trial deck when you're going to end the series and then reboot the game. If they didn't reboot the game, I'm very sure that Chronojet Z was also a trial deck card, because the original Chronojet Dragon was a trial deck card. Then we had another Gear Chronicle trial deck with yet again a Chronojet Dragon. And then we had trial deck 9, which had Chronojet Dragon G. So Chronojet Dragon has been the trial deck grade 3 during the whole G era. So I'm pretty convinced that it's very likely that once again it's going to be a trial deck card, which makes sense as having Chronojet Dragon and Chrono Fang in the same set is going to make some awkward distribution of rarities, as having 2 triple R grade 3s. I'm not sure if that's the way to go. It can happen. It can definitely be the case. Bushrod can pull a fast one on us and do that. But having it as a trial deck also makes sense. Especially how they introduced it in this episode, as they didn't do anything. Rife just put the cards onto the field and tapped them. And just vanilla attacked. So they're pretty much teasing us at this point. So I'm very curious on which direction they're gonna go with Chronojet Dragon. And that's basically everything that we can talk about this card right now. This is all the information that we got. But I'm very, very excited for Chronojet Dragon to return to Standard once again. It might not be ideal for Premium, but at least it allows me to play with the card in Standard, because I'm more certain that the card is going to be more playable in the Standard format then it's going to be playable in Premium. But depending on the support they're going to get in this set, and potentially the trial deck afterwards, that can all change. We might get more ZTB support, as Chrono Fang is a ZTB of nature. But then again, Bushrod can once again pull a fast one on us and make Chrono Fang and Chrono Tiger Rebellion a pure Gear Beast, and remove the whole Zodiac Time Beast tag of the card. I don't think they're gonna do it, but it's possible. But that's basically everything for this video. I blabbered around long enough. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the fact that we finally having Chronojet Dragon back into Standard. Chronojet Dragon V, as V for victory. Step aside, Overlord. Love him or hate him, it is the savior and the messiah that we currently need to fix our problems. But of course, let me know all your thoughts and opinions about this topic in the comments down below, as I'm curious of what you can speculate about what this might mean for Standard, Premium, card design, what all that nonsense, as there is so much to speculate, as the only thing that we have is a card art and nothing more. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters for making this video and everything on the channel possible. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel, then head over to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Timeleaf, and I see you guys in the next one. Chronojet! Woohoo!